Well, thank you guys for being available this evening. I know it's 7:31 according to my watch, so very informal. So I don't know whether you've kind of got this from the class so far, but this really is about developing conversations around how to best make the use of the standards and the teaching approaches, the best practices to really engage students in math discourse and conversation. So really the way the course is set up is to, really try and get some of that reflective dialogue both in the discussions and in the activities that you are partnering with people to complete. And then, informally reflecting from a reflective practitioner standpoint. So the weekly reflection journals are, hi Savannah, the weekly reflection journals are something that I really want you guys to be very, very personable in. Coming from recent doctoral studies, I'm seeing a lot of APA citations and posts and all that kind of stuff, which is great. But I really want you to empower you guys to really take the conversation to a conversational level. Okay, so don't worry about being too formal or overly formal in the things that you're the stuff that you're posting. I would really rather you engage in more meaningful conversation than that. Okay, so it's great, and hopefully I can kind of steer you guys in that direction, because otherwise, without the conversation, we won't get to the objectives of the course, which is to get us to elevate our current practices to incorporate some of the new things that we're learning. So hopefully, you'll see the benefit in the discussions. I'm trying to vary the discussion. So if you notice in this session, we're doing a asynchronous Flipgrid discussion. So you don't necessarily have to, type out your responses. Same thing with the the weekly academic reflections or weekly content reflections, I believe they're called. You can type, but you can also videotape. You can do a brief 1-2 minute video that ultimately allows you to, kind of in real time reflect on some of the things that you're doing. Hopefully, with the activities that are planned, they won't take too much time, but they do require you to work with a partner. And if there are issues with time zones and all that kind of stuff, please let me know, and we'll try and work around that to make sure that we can accommodate what you guys need in order to do those things. I would rather, if you have issues with time zones and stuff, to grab a student or a roommate or a partner or a husband or wife and do the activities with them, so that you still get to do the activities. Because ultimately, they can be fun too. So there are some additional assignments. There are 3 kind of big assignments this semester. There are 2 that specifically relate to the algebra kind of chunk of sessions that we're doing, and then to the geometry chunk of sessions. And really the way in which these content reflections and summaries are built is that should all really fit into those other assignments. So, we're not really looking for, I'm not looking for you to kind of reinvent the wheel as you go. Think of those as more formalized versions of everything else that you're doing. Okay, and the directions for those are pretty detailed. I'll stick to the rubric on those, but just use what you do along the way, and the connections that you make along the way, and the connections that you make with other people along the way to really kind of formalize for those algebra and geometry plans. And then the last reflection at the end of the semester really ties everything together, and it really is, once again, looking back at everything you've done and then actually putting that down on paper into more of an action plan on how you're going to use the things that you've gained from the class to really support where you're going next semester. So, hopefully, as you look at the assignments and as you look at the way in which the assignments are written, you don't see a lot of extra work, more just kind of building upon what we're doing every week, because that really is the goal of how the assignments were intended to to be delivered to you guys. So I know you guys are kind of just getting started with the class. You've probably looked through the resources, you've looked through the assignment directions, and I know you've all done your content reflections for the first time. Do you guys have any questions kind of going into the semester, or into the summer, I should say?
So I have just one clarifying question. In the directions for the discussion, the weekly discussion that we post on Thursday, I believe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It says it's looking for meaningful engagement with the class. In the past, some of the classes have been a little bit more clear about like what that means. Am I responding to 2 people? Do I have to respond to 5 people? Should I do it on different days, or if I just do it on Sunday, is that okay?
Yeah.
Just clarifications about what that like meaningful contribution would be.
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually a really great question. So from a formalized standpoint, it usually is reply to two people. That's kind of the School of Ed's policy. So 2 is kind of the minimum. Technically you can do that on a Sunday, but if you do it on a Sunday, then you don't really get into meaningful discussion. So, from a discussion perspective, if you could post Thursday or Friday so that the person who you're posting to can respond on Saturday, and then if you could do something back on the Sunday, like think of it like a tennis match, right? Like you at least want some kind of engagement going backwards and forwards. So, a healthy discussion would at least be, I'm going to ask you something, you're going to give me something back, and then I'm going to reflect on it. So
the more volleys, the better.
Yeah. So, but theoretically, if you posted twice, you would get the points for that. So, if it's a points game or a discussion game, I would aim for more of the discussion game.
I just want, because I've had other classes that required more.
Yeah. So, and like I said, we're going to vary it too. And a lot of what you're doing with the activities and stuff like that, you're going to be engaging in conversations along the way. So, from a formalized discussion board perspective, you've already done some discussion with the person that you're doing the activities with. So, it's not the only time you're going to be doing discussions. Okay. And from the reflective journal perspective, like I've gone in and I've given some, very basic feedback for this first session. But as we get going with those, I may ask you questions too. So, really it's about that dialogue to build knowledge together. So. Mm-hmm. My hope is you take it to a volley, a volley approach. But great question. Any other questions?
I have a question about the content reflections.
Yes.
I know you said that they're more informal. Are you still looking to have sense like within the writing with references?
So if they are, my basic rule of thumb is anytime you reference materials that you're reading as a course material, you don't need to, like, you can just put NCTM, you don't have to put the full-blown citation and all that kind of stuff. For the reflections themselves, I'm really looking for more authentic reflections. So, if you do bring in a citation or two, like, I mean, as long as you put who the author is, you don't have to do the whole full-blown reference. I know that you know how to do that. But really, I'm looking more for you to kind of pose questions to yourself and to really reflect. So think of those content reflections as like your diary that is between you and I. So, they do not have to be formal at all. So, 2-3 paragraphs tops. You can ask me questions. We can dialogue backwards and forwards, or it could be, something as simple as, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm hearing. I would love to discuss this more with you, and we can set up a call and we can just talk about it. Or, it really is about becoming a reflective practitioner in that sense, not an APA scholar. So, don't worry about going too formal on those. Yeah. And I want those to be quick. I don't want you guys to spend a whole bunch of time on those. It's more like we've just done all of these activities and we've done these kind of formalized discussion threads. This is what really I'm thinking. So yeah, great question.
That answers. Thank you.
My goal was to not make you do more work. Allie, do you have any questions?
I don't have any at the moment. But that doesn't mean I won't have
That
them.
doesn't mean you're not going to have any, right?
Right. Just right now, I don't have any.
Yeah, good. Well, as we're going through the sessions, like this session, for example, so some of the things that I really want you to be thinking about in this first algebra session from a standards perspective is not only the standard that you teach, and the read-ins will kind of differentiate in regards to picking out the specific grade band that you teach, but in thinking about like the INTAR standards, for example, you know, if you had to instruct students, what may you, like how may you set that up? What might your instructional practice be? You know, if you've done something like this in the past, and all of you guys are teachers, so you do this every day, you know, what kind of best practices do you get your students to do to maybe, you know, persevere through something? So, you know, obviously this one's looking at patterns, functions, and relationships. So, you know, how do you get students to look for connections in what they do? How do you get them to look for structure? How do you get them to think about what they know and apply it to situations that they don't know, right? So thinking about 6th grade math, if you're teaching them how to reduce fractions, how do you get them to think about all of the things that they maybe know about pizza that they learn in 4th and 5th grade, and how that can apply to, you know, reducing to the lowest common denominator and all those kind of things. Like all of those things that they have to think through to get to that process. How do we get them to do that? Okay, so think specifically the standards of math practice. As we go through this, I'll be sharing some videos from a project that that I did specifically around the standards of math practice. You guys can take those videos and you can use them in your classroom if you find them valuable. But just getting them to apply, think, show their thinking, that making that invisible process visible, which really supports that kind of notion of the learner and the learning that needs to take place, back to those INTAR standards within the classroom to develop those basic thinking pieces. So that's kind of the connections I want you to make as you're going through this. I know you've probably looked at some of the activities and stuff like that. I think you can only see sessions 1 and 2 right now, but you should see that the activities are pretty basic. You know, it really is about looking at the content in that K through 6th, 7th, 8th grade band. So I think the content for this one is, you know, like 3rd or 4th grade. So it's pretty basic math content, but it's more the activity around it and how you can connect that to those standards of math practice and pushing yourself to persevere, right? It's very easy for us who know how to kind of do function machines and stuff like that to rush through activities and not necessarily articulate our thinking through it too. So that's kind of the purpose of these activities, is to actually get you to talk through what's going on, not necessarily the math, because hopefully it's the math is above us all, and if it isn't, then that's okay too. You know, I'm an English guy who learned how to do fractions when I became an American school teacher. So, because we don't do fractions in England, we're on the metric system. So, you know, we can, I can relate to the best of them when it comes to math content, as I'm sure you can too, with your students, you know.
One question I just thought of. So are you going to post the sessions weekly, or are we ever going to get stuff that's posted ahead of time?
Technically, under the JHU rules, the sessions open on the Friday before they are due to begin. But let me see what I can do. What I would actually really like to do, and if you guys are in agreement with this, I'll fight for that, is to open up all of the algebra sessions to get you through just the algebra chunk, and then I'll open up all of the geometry sessions just so that you can kind of look through, especially since there's a specific algebra assignment that is built upon all of the algebra sessions, and the same thing with the geometry piece. But you'll notice too, we have some work weeks in there too, and I'm available during the work weeks to connect with you guys. And then immediately following the algebra and geometry assignments, you have a reflection week where you're basically just looking at each other's work and giving each other feedback. So, you know, there's some kind of nice breaks in the semester, and this is summer too. So you know, I don't want to give you guys too much to do over the summer, because you've been in school for the past 180, 90 days, and you deserve a break too. So yeah, but I'll find that out and I'll post that within the next day or two. Okay.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yep. So you guys have any other questions? You guys are a quiet group. There are only 4 of you guys on the line, so you know, we can get some dialogue and conversation going if you want to. You're like, no, I just want to take my Tuesday and be done. The best part is I actually am in public education too. So I work for the Maryland State Department of Education. So I'm sitting in my office at MSDE, and you know, I deal with a lot of the same things you guys deal with. So you know, I appreciate everything you do. And as a student, a fellow student, I just finished the doctorate program at Hopkins a year ago. So I completely relate to what you're trying to do, and you know, doing all of these classes in all of the spare time that you have, right? You have lots of spare time. So anything I can do to really make this a more enjoyable experience, please let me know. And like I said, do not hesitate to reach out. You know, for the most part, this is a pretty informal class. You know, hopefully we develop knowledge together and we really look at the way in which we instruct our students and we make connections. But the best way we can do that is through authentic conversation and discussion. So, you know, if you have any questions, let me know. If you, you know, get stuck in anything, let me know. But I am here to help support you in getting through this semester, and together it will be hopefully an enjoyable experience. So yeah.
All right. Thank you.
So if you guys don't have any questions, this is very short. This is deliberately very short. It really is more of an introduction and to kind of reassure you guys that this is, together we'll get through this and it will be a fun semester. So, and I challenge one of you guys to post a meme or a math joke or something like that in your next discussion, because you'll see I tend to go that way as the semester goes on. The less I don't have to write and the more I can make you guys laugh is definitely the way we should get through this semester. So,
Right.
Thank you guys for taking a few minutes this evening.
Well, thank you.
Really appreciate you joining me. And I look forward to working with you over the next 10, 12, however many weeks we have together. And I'm here if you need me. So give me a call, shoot me an email, and we'll get through this.
All right. Thanks. Good night.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.